All right, I'll try to make this quick. So, chapter 10 is Dynamics of Interpersonal Communication. And even though it is the same length as most of the other chapters, there's only three sections. I think the last section is really jam packed. The first section is really, I think, straightforward. And as you read the chapter, I want you to think about people that you have formed a relationship with, a friendship, a romantic relationship. I don't know, sometimes we have quasi friendships with people we work with, and think what caused the relationship to form. People tend, okay, so in the past, spell check has not liked the word complementarity. They want to make it complementary. And what's important to remember about complementarity is it's not necessarily opposites attract, but the idea that you feel that the other person has qualities that maybe you don't have, and you really like it, although sometimes that can cause problems. The other issue tends to be people have a kind of a problem with the idea of rewards, because they don't like to think that, let's take a friendship, that you didn't become friends with someone because of what you thought you could get out of it, but rewards really means that you feel you are getting something out of the relationship. In fact, if there's a relationship that has fizzled, it might be because you felt you were the one who was putting a lot in and you weren't getting a lot out. And if you want to, in class, we can talk about social exchange theory, which when we, well, I mean, that's basically what rewards is. But what I meant is we could talk about the standards of comparison. Like, you sometimes wonder why people stay in relationships that don't seem to be giving them anything. And it's either because the person kind of doesn't have really high standards of a relationship, or they feel, well, if I get out of this relationship, the chances of me finding anything better are really small, which I think is kind of sad. But I think complementarity and rewards are the ones that seem to be the most challenging to understand. So if you have questions about them, definitely bring them to class, but also see if you can come up with an example for all of these, or as many as you can, so that we can have a little bit of a group discussion about this. Okay. Ooh, this is kind of fuzzy. The second section in the this chapter talks about basically two models of relational dynamics. The first one was something created by Mark Knapp, although this is how can I'm pointing at the computer, which of course you can't see. Knapp did not have the relational maintenance phase. As far as he was concerned, relationships had a coming together and a coming apart. So Knapp would have said it went from initiating to bonding and then differentiating to terminating. But other people who studied relationships said, you know what, there really is a stage in the relationship where things are kind of, they're in I don't want to say stasis, but things are just smooth. It's neither building nor I don't want to say failing, but that's kind of what it is. It's holding its own. So what I'd like you to do for this one is to think about a relationship you had, a friendship, a romantic relationship, a work relationship, even potentially a relationship with a relative that no longer exists. And can you see how you went through all of these stages? One thing I want to make clear is people always have a problem with this. The very first stage, which is initiating, is short. It lasts like a minute. And what that is you saying, you sit down next to someone in class and you say, so what's your major? And once you start talking, you're past the initiating stage, you're into the experimenting stage. Or I guess the old pickup line from I've seen in movies. So you come here often? And if the person doesn't get up and leave, and then the two people start talking, then you've moved from initiating to experimenting. Okay. just remember, initiating is very, very short. Okay. Again, if you have any questions about any of these stages, definitely bring them to class and bring in your ideas about a relationship you had that has ended. And you might find that, yes, while you can see that it was steps going up, maybe at a certain point it was no longer steps going down and it just became a slide, that maybe you went from circumscribing to terminating. That's possible. The second model, and I'm pausing and rubbing my head, I think is much more useful, but also a little more challenging to wrap our brains around. What I like about the dialectical tensions is that these dialectical tensions occur in relationships that are at the very beginning stages, that are in at the middle, that have been going on for decades. I don't want to spend a lot of time here talking about it because we will spend time in class. But the thing, a dialectic tends to be when there are two opposing forces that are acting on, we'll just say, the two people in a relationship. And you see there are the three dialectics that they talk about, and under each dialectic there are two kinds. The first kind, and I'm going to use the word couple, and it doesn't necessarily mean romantic. It can be friendship, but okay, maybe I should say the pair. The first one, like for example, under integration separation dialectic, the first dialectic is the one that occurs between the two people in the relationship, this connection or autonomy. Do I want to do things with this person? Do I want to do things on my own? The second, and so that's the same thing with the predictability, novelty, and the openness, closedness. This is between the two people in the relationship. The second one has to do with the two people in the relationship and the outer world. So this inclusion seclusion is, do we, let me make up a situation. It's our first holiday together. Do we want to spend time with our family? That would be inclusion. Or do we want to separate ourselves and we just want to celebrate on our own? And that would be seclusion. Okay. And definitely we will go over these, but read this part carefully, come in with questions, and see if you can think about examples where this plays out in your own life. Okay. The last section is the largest section, and I feel like the text size just got really big. And this has to do with the fact that, okay, if you are in a relationship, obviously you are communicating about the relationship. And if you think back to chapter 1, we talked about when in a message, there's the content, what you're talking about, and there's the relational message, which has to do with the emotional tone. Okay. And so sometimes it's not so much what you say. Like I don't know if I've been away for a while and I come home and I say, so how was your day? I mean, I could be specifically asking about the day, but it's also a way maybe that I'm checking on the state of our relationship. So that would be a relational message. Okay. So the book makes a good, yep, just went blank, analogy that, in a sense, if you have a car, you can't just drive it and expect it to keep working. There's some maintenance that you have to do. You put gas in the car on a regular basis. You bring it in for an oil change. You rotate the tires. You make sure the fluids are topped off. You had a Honda. You make sure that the CV joints are good and all that kind of stuff. All right. So one of the things that goes into maintaining the relationship, or not one of the things, there are these 5 things that people can do to keep the relationship going smoothly. And I think they're all pretty straightforward: positivity, openness, assurances, social networks, and sharing tasks. Just social networks does not mean social media. It means that you and the other person share someone has a social network. They have a group of friends, and you are somehow connected there also. Okay. Next point, the idea of part of supporting a relationship is the social support, and this kind of support can be emotional support. Okay. Friend of yours loses their job, and you say, "Oh my God, that's so terrible. I'm here for you, man." Emotional support, or woman. Informational support could be something like, "Hey, I just saw that, I don't know, Shake Shack is hiring." So you're giving them information. And instrumental support would be something like, "I have a suit you could borrow," or I can give you a ride. Okay. This is, I don't want to be dismissive about this. This is important. And I think a lot of, maybe I'm not, maybe this is not accurate. I think we do these things, at least some of them, to keep the relationship going. And if we don't, then we can go back to Mark Knapp's model of relational dynamics, and we can see maybe why the relationship fell apart. It's when there are transgressions that we start to have problems. And I can see I'm already talking too long. So basically, when we're trying to decide how serious this transgression is, we're saying, okay, was it something minor or was it significant? Was it a social transgression or was it a relational transgression? Was it something deliberate or unintentional? And was it a one-time thing, or is it something incremental, something that's been going on over time? So if you can think about, and this would be very useful for the discussion, think about a time that someone transgressed against you, and even better, a time that you were the transgressor. And you don't have to share the intimate details with everybody, but so have something where maybe you can talk about it without having to redact too much information. Okay. Somebody in the relationship has transgressed, and the people in the relationship say, "You know what? We don't want this relationship to terminate. We want to fix it." Okay. So, what do? You have to discuss well, I would argue you have to discuss it. When people ignore it, for many people, it tends to fester. Okay. So the person who offended has to apologize. And it's something like, "I said I was going to be home for dinner and I wasn't. I know you spent a lot of time cooking and you feel dinner is ruined. Let me make it up to you by taking you out to dinner. I'm really sorry." 1, 2, 3. Okay. Why would we even bother to forgive someone? And this is a tough concept. And I will definitely talk about the benefits of forgiveness. And I have to say, in this case, it is more, let me tell you what the research tells you, and not, let me tell you what I've been able to do, because I think I could gold medal in holding a grudge. But I'm going to have you, for the discussion, your small group discussion, I'm going to have you, you know what, we might do this. Okay. I'm going to have you watch 2 videos. And they're both from Soul Pancake. One is The Power of Forgiveness, and the other one, I forget what it's called, but it's a follow-up to this first one. So in addition to watching the 2 videos, one is 7 minutes, the other is 4 minutes, I want you to think about a situation that you have been in where you were the one who needed forgiveness, or you were the one who needed to forgive. All right. Please please let me know what questions you have in the survey, and then bring your questions to class on Wednesday.